Hi, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode. Today, I am joined by Catherine Ann again, our resident intuitive astrologer, and we are going to dive deep into the energies surrounding the upcoming full moon in Pisces, which is a lunar eclipse on September 17th. So, Catherine, welcome back, and I'm going to turn it over to you to just dive right in.
All right, thanks, Lindsay. So this lunar eclipse, full moon in Pisces, is going to be showing up on the 17th in the evening Pacific time. So you're going to want to adjust for your time zone. If you're pretty far east of Pacific time, it's actually going to show up for you in the morning of the 18th. So, one of the things that I want to talk about is what is different about this eclipse than some of the ones we've had recently. And in order to do that, I need to explain like how does an eclipse happen even astronomically? So, in order to become an eclipse, it has to do with its proximity to the nodes. And the nodes are not bodies, they are points that cross the ecliptic. So there's the south node or the north node. So since July 2023, we have been dancing with the north node in Aries and the south node in Libra and really looking at those themes in those areas of our life and having eclipses that kind of instigate change in those areas. So what's different about this one is it's a full moon in Pisces, not Aries or Libra. So it took me a minute to kind of really feel what I was going to be guided to talk about with this, because at first I just kept thinking this feels disjointed and I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And then I realized it's this and so that's a big part of what we're going to talk about today is it's both. There's two things going on. So the full moon is in Pisces. The north node that is activating this full moon and making an eclipse is in Aries. So we have two different energies going on. So lunar eclipses are often times that bring about endings or a time to let go of things. Interestingly, we had a lunar eclipse in Libra back in March, I believe it was. And that was near the South Node, which also is about release and letting go. So that really kind of jived. But this is a lunar eclipse about endings and letting go next to the North Node that is about maybe pulling into something new. It's not about releasing, it's about going towards. And so that's again where it's like the yes and energy. We have some things that are going to be needing to be released or let go of. Just like we talk about full moons we've talked about many times, right? A spotlight is going to be shown in a certain area, and maybe we need to release or pivot in order to continue bringing that manifestation into fruition. This is also having that quality because it's a full moon. And because it's a lunar eclipse, it's even more of a letting go, more of a release, really an ending as opposed to just a letting go, right? This is about something might be ending, but it's in order for us to pursue something.
Right. So a
And
cycle is coming into completion in order for this new beginning.
right. And we talk about the full moon of not being the point of completion. It's the spotlight that tells us we need to pivot. It's coming full, and this pivot allows us to harvest. But because this is an eclipse, it is also an ending. And one of the things that's important to know about eclipse energy is it's not a 1 day scenario. It's not even a 1 month scenario like we talk about often with the lunar cycle. This is 6 months that we're looking at, even depending on how long the eclipse lasts. Some astrologers will look at that as kind of every minute the eclipse lasts is a year. So this has a much longer trajectory of where we could be feeling the impact. And that was actually one of the things that Spirit really wanted me to bring attention to as we talk today, is that this is a time where I'm actually going to read it exactly how they told me, because It just felt important. So this eclipse is marking the beginning of a period of time where we may be tested. And it's not, so my cat just jumped up on the table. It's not just because of the eclipse, but there's a lot of other things going on over the next few months that mimic and echo this same energy. So this eclipse is like a doorway to a portal, a doorway to a period of time of endings and beginnings that have to do with what we've learned since July of 2023 about this Aries-Libra axis, which is about we and me. Libra is the we, it's relationships, it's balance. The Aries is the me, the I am. And so since July of 2023, collectively, there's been lessons about this. In some area, there's an axis that they sit on. And so in some two areas, really, you're balancing that. So my example is as a Capricorn rising, Libra is in my 10th house, Aries is in my 4th house. 10th house is about career and public reputation. 4th house is about home and family and emotional foundation. So I've been doing this dance between my career and my home. And depending on what else is going on, I'm getting pulled more towards one or the other. And I really feel that this lunar eclipse is this, it's a beginning to an ending of this Aries Libra dance, because that's going to end at the beginning of January. So we're going to be done with the nodes in Aries and Libra that have been activating these eclipses. And so that's a year and a half of us exploring and learning. And I feel like this Pisces eclipse that we're going into in September is like the beginning of the end of these lessons.
Interesting.
And
So, one question I have for you, just to pause there for a second, because if I remember correctly, part of Libra is relationships, but also issues around codependence, right? And so I think this is where you're speaking to like the me versus the we. And already, as you're talking about this, I can very much relate to like looking at different scenarios in my life where I feel like I'm losing me in the we, whatever that is, right? And so, but I feel like I have been working on healing these issues for a long period of time now. And so this is kind of an example of what's coming to completion. Is that accurate?
absolutely. And I think that I'm going to go over some specific themes that came up in some specific areas, but I think that we will see over the next few months moments where we get to choose. Are we choosing the codependent pattern? Are we choosing others' harmony over our own? Or vice versa, because it can very much also be unbalanced the other way. Are we only thinking about ourselves and not realizing the impact it has on others? And so that's also not in balance. And so it's not about one is better than the other. It's about balance. It's about evening out those forces. Our relationships are critically important in our life. And so are we. Ourself, our own I am is critically important in our life. And how are we honoring both in a healthy and balanced way and moving forward? So one of the things that I really wanted to talk about is this Pisces area, because we've talked about this kind of continuously, because Saturn has been in Pisces this whole time since March of 2023. Saturn has been in Pisces, and we've talked about Saturn is about commitment and responsibility and containers and setting boundaries. And Pisces, for many of us, especially on this spiritual consciousness, mindfulness path, we may tend to not be so balanced in the me versus we. the empaths, the caretakers, the healers. More often than not, we forget to take our own needs into consideration over others. And with Saturn really working with us to commit to this spiritual path, commit to that all the Pisces stuff, right? Intuition and dreams and flowiness, but putting a container around it and committing. So some of the examples we've talked about over the last few months is putting a container around it and having a daily practice, making your spirituality, your consciousness, your mindfulness have a structure, have a process to process your emotions. Make sure you're showing up for yourself and you're committing to yourself. So this is a thread that's been going along the whole time, almost the whole time, that Aries, the North Node in Aries, has also been saying, hey, what about me? And the South Node in Libra going, we may have some patterns in the we area of our life that need to be let go of to come into balance. So I just think that's a really interesting thread that they're both happening at the same time. So when I looked at this chart, I could not take my eyes away from the fact that Mars is loud, because Mars, the planet of action, drive, aggression, is in its placement is called at the bendings of the nodes. What that means is it's exactly at that 90-degree in between point of the nodes. And that is a choice point. And this is where I kept getting this idea that we can't ignore that Mars is in this place in this lunar eclipse, because Mars rules Aries. So Mars has been very active in this me, we, anyways. But also, if any of you remember the big, huge eclipse in April that everyone was talking about because it was going to cross over the United States and it was a total solar eclipse, well, that was actually also very strongly impacted by Mars. And so Mars is just a part of this 1.5-year cycle in not only as the ruler, but it just keeps showing up, right, as something loud. So again, it's loud. Mars is here. And so if it's in the place of choice point, we're going to be asked to take actions. This is not internal. This is not, I'm going to process my emotions. I'm going to subconsciously look at how things are going on. I'm going to subconsciously let go or release. This is external events and actions are going to come into play over the next few months, over the time of this portal that we're entering in, that are going to say to us, are you choosing me or are you choosing we? It's the constant, I feel like it's going to be the broken record that's going to happen over the next few months. Are you putting yourself in the equation? Or are you only thinking of yourself and you're not considering the important relationships in your life? And also remembering that relationship isn't always with people. Relationship can be to things too. So relationship to money, relationship to joy and fun and connection. It's not always going to be about a person. It could be about a pattern that you have in relation to certain topics.
Right. If we have food addiction or something, there's a dependency or a codependency on food, drugs, alcohol, right? Different things of that nature too. We can be codependent with our pets. We can be codependent with our ego. So I think that's a big one too.
Right. And so we're going to be given many opportunities over the next few months to know we've learned what we needed to learn on this Aries-Libra axis.
Yeah, as you're saying that, I got the word to prove we've learned it. Yeah.
And I think it's really important that you said the word prove, because proving to me feels external. Because, ooh, I got full body chills on that. Proving is you're actually going to take an action that demonstrates the balance between the two, or choosing that you didn't learn those lessons, right? And you're going to choose to have more of the same. So some of the things that I want to talk about are some of the other aspects or some of the other points that come up before I really get into the actual theme, which is Pisces is dreamy on its own, but this moon is right next to Neptune in Pisces, just 3 degrees away. So Neptune is also super dreamy, and the illusion and delusion. And so there's a lot of flow. There's a lot of water in this moon. And that's fine. It doesn't have to be delusion. Neptune is retrograde, so it's really this internal conversation with Neptune. But you're really going to be looking at your dreams. For some people, they're actual dreams at night, but you're like, what do you want? What are you trying to manifest? What do you want to bring into this world? What lights you up? You're really going to be in this energy of being able to almost like fantasize about that. And in the few days before this moon, Jupiter and Venus are in this beautiful trine. So you feel good. Everything is pleasant and happy. And it really kind of creates this nest to dream. You're like, oh,
That feels like a nice change of pace.
yeah, not forever, but for a few days before this moon, we're just going to feel like, things are good. The sun is shining, and wouldn't it be lovely if I could do this or have this? And that's awesome. And then Mars is going to go, so what are you going to do about it? Mars is not going to let you sit and dream. It's going to say, like, you have to step into this. If you want it, you have to take action. You have to step into this. And so really the theme is your dreams matter. And if you want to bring them into form, you're going to have to protect and defend them. Mars is going to say, stand up for what you want. So Mars currently, it just went into Cancer earlier September. So it's not his favorite place to be, but think of Cancer as the crab and Cancer of this homey feeling. So Mars gets very protective. It's about security. And you might even, like, if you were thinking of mundane astrology, you would hear things like homeland security. It's about securing your home, securing your emotions. It's very mama bear, right? I'm going to take action to defend my littles. This is Mars and Cancer energy. And so the way Mars is showing up when it comes to your dreams is, I'm going to defend my dream. Because if I don't stand up for my dream, nobody else will.
I was gonna say, how that might show up, right? Like, what would it mean to defend the dreams? Like, I feel like we'd almost be tested on: are you gonna go after it, or are you gonna settle? Are you gonna really step into the discomfort, or are you gonna take the easy route and stay in the familiar? And even though when you talk about, right, there's a choice point, it feels to me like that might be some of the choice of, like, we can really get stuck in that safety
Mhm,
of no good enough, maybe.
mhm.
But this whole, like, really feeling like, no, you're deserving of everything that you want to have in your life.
Yep, exactly. And Pisces is saying the dream. But this Aries axis that we've been on is saying my own unique individuality. So it's about, I have to protect my unique dream. It's not the collective dream. It's not other important people in my life's dream. It's me. I have to protect what makes me excited and what I want and stand up for me, because the idea of the North Node says I matter. And so this North Node, it's this and, right? I matter and my dream matters. And so that's what we're going to be asked to step up and defend. And not all of us are going to love that. You know, not all of us are going to feel that they know how to balance. How do I step up and defend my dream and still feel good about my relationships? Especially if you haven't done the work on the codependency, because that's what's been asking to be released. So if you haven't taken the opportunity to really move through some of that, it's going to feel harder to defend yourself. And you may go into the mode of, I'm going to defend others because it feels more comfortable to defend my children or my family or my coworkers than standing up for me.
Well, and that's also very codependent in certain ways, right?
Yeah, because you can get some real validation out of I'm taking action for others. But I just really feel like what is ending, right? What this lunar eclipse is saying needs to come to an end is putting others before yourself in a way
Yeah.
that's healthy.
I was going to say, just to help people understand codependence if they're not quite used to it, it's really about starting to look at the underlying reasons why you take action, right? If we're giving to others, stepping up for others, being a warrior for others because it gives us joy to do that, and there's no other outcome attached to it, you're giving from an open heart. And that's a beautiful thing. And we all should continue to give from that place. But if we're giving with some sort of attachment to an outcome or a feeling or something is attached to the reason we're giving. We're going to give because we're going to feel guilty if we don't. We're giving because we're trying to get something in return. We're giving because, right, we're trying to get something, usually some form of validation, appreciation, approval, applause, right? Whatever it is, we have to look at the underlying reasons why we are behaving in the ways that we are behaving. And if it's anything other than giving from an open heart and because it feels good to give, we've got to question what wound is really driving us to act in those ways. So for anybody who's coming into this healing of those codependent tendencies, that's the question you need to ask yourself is, why am I doing this? Right? And am I sacrificing myself because doing this for someone else is going to give me a feeling of self-worth or some other feel good feeling that I actually need to be meeting within myself, but I look externally in order to receive that validation so that I can feel like I'm enough or I can feel like I'm fill in the blank. And so I think for anybody who's just stepping into these codependent patterns and wanting to heal them at a deeper level, those are the questions that can guide some of their behaviors as they're forced with these choices, right?
Yeah. And I just saw on an Instagram reel a therapist and her basically like role playing the idea of kind of like the codependent parent relationship. And it made me think, as you were saying, so if you're doing certain things and sacrificing your needs, that's a red flag. So this reel that I was watching was, the daughter like, okay, I got invited to a party, I'm going to go out. And the mom is like, oh, that's nice. I didn't get invited anywhere. I guess I'll just stay home. I have so much to do here anyways. It's okay. I let my friendships go because I just really have so much to take care of the home. And that's really more important. And so it's this dialogue that they were doing of the justifying sacrificing, giving up things that you really need to make yourself whole in the name of I need to do for others, right? I have to take care of my kids. I have to take care of the home. I can't have friends. I can't go out and do things because this part of me is all consuming. And this part of me is where I get my validation from. And so the Pisces part is saying, no, you have dreams too. Don't give up those dreams. And I think, I keep thinking back about that image of a nest that Venus and Jupiter are creating to dream and fantasize the few days before this. And you may be in like, I wish, if only, but hold on to that, because that is your dream and you will have opportunities to say this matters. That's I feel like it's gonna happen over and over again. What keeps being pulled back to me is we are also in this 2.5-ish months of Pluto retrograded back into Capricorn. So for everybody, this is a closing out. Pluto's not going to go back into Capricorn again for 250 some years. So for everybody, this is that last bit of Pluto and Capricorn conversation. So again, it's proving you've learned all those lessons in these last 3 months. It's like, did you get it? If you didn't get it, last chance, here we go. And so this is why I feel like this is an echoing theme that keeps happening. It's like, did you get it? We're giving you a chance. You have a few more months to really get this before we're going to move on. And of course, we talk about it's never going to pass you by. Things will come around again, but is it going to come around in 18 years again? That's when the nodes will be back in this placement. Is it going to come back in 250 years when none of us are here? Right? Like that, it will come back, but maybe take the opportunity to act on it now. So, another thing to talk about is that the Pisces full moon really is a time of compassion. And so as we're talking about all of this, have you been standing up for yourself? Have you been releasing some codependent patterns? It's also remembering to have compassion for yourself through this process, because it's not easy. Patterns are deep. And especially those of us who are in the archetypes of healer and teacher and caretaker, we do tend to do well with compassion for others and not for ourselves. And so this is a really good time to turn the compassion on yourself, but it's a compassion of, again, I matter, my dreams matter. I can still be the healer, the empath, the teacher, and show up for myself too.
So a lot of what you're saying too really speaks to looking at our boundaries and where do we need to have stronger boundaries with ourselves? Where do we need to have stronger boundaries with others? Because ultimately the most compassionate people are also the most boundaried people. Right. And so that's what I think Brene Brown had said that. And I think that's something that just flashed into my mind as you were saying that, like to really have compassion for others and to have compassion for ourselves, like we really need to be boundaried.
Mm-hmm.
And boundaries protecting our dreams, like boundaries seems like a big theme.
I think it is a big theme. And we talked about this with the Virgo new moon, but Virgo energy also comes into play with this full moon one, because it's creating the full moon. The sun is still in Virgo. But Mercury, that rules Virgo, is in opposition to Saturn and Pisces. So also in a whole sign opposition to this full moon in general. And I think what's really important about that is we talked a lot about how Virgo is the master of discernment, but also to be very conscious to not be critical. So there's discernment, and then there's that ego peanut gallery that rips you apart. And the compassion that you need to give yourself through, eclipses sometimes are unexpected endings, right? So an unexpected ending, an unexpected change that happens in relation to eclipse season, Mercury opposing Saturn could have a lot to say about that. That's not very friendly. And so being mindful to allow that Mercury to have a job of self-reflection and discernment, and consciously do that, as opposed to letting Mercury run wild and tell you you're not being compassionate enough, you're not being good enough, you're not helping others enough, because Virgo needs a job. I'm sorry, Mercury needs a job in this situation so that it doesn't go off the rails and basically beat you up for whatever's going on, right? Because these actions that this Mars in the bendings are going to ask of us aren't going to feel always easy. And if we don't make them, we also don't want to let our ego beat us up for it. We're all human. We're going to have compassion that was hard. Or we are really going to step into that Saturn and Pisces of, I've been really growing in my ability to step into this conscious path, and I'm going to have the hard conversation. I'm going to have I'm going to do the hard thing. And Mercury can help you with that, because it can be discerning. And so I think that where Mercury is going to be asked to slow down. It likes to be fast. So you're going to be asked to slow down your thoughts, slow down your busy mind, reflect, discern. It may turn into critique, but don't allow it to turn into criticism.
I can see the themes continuing from the new moon around that inner perfectionism. So, yeah.
It is. It really is flowing from that. And basically what it's saying now is take in the bigger picture. Don't allow yourself to get pessimistic or worried about the minute details. Take in the bigger picture. We have Neptune in Pisces. This moon is in Pisces. It's all expansive and bigger. And so it's okay to go there.
So ground that for me in something practical so I can understand that a little bit more. So are you saying that we need, when you say like, don't get stuck in the details, keep a bigger picture, is that right? Don't beat yourself up for like the one time you didn't speak up to somebody. Keep in mind that 9 times out of 10, you're having courage and you're stepping into it, and don't get down on yourself for the one time that you're not. It's just observe and correct and move forward differently.
Perfectly. What I wrote down was, don't let negative self-talk burst your bubble. So don't let negative self-talk pull the rug out from under all your dreams too, because maybe not all of your dreams are going to come into form right now. Maybe it's a longer trajectory, but that doesn't mean that all of them aren't worth dreaming about. And on the flip side, because I think you described it beautifully internally, but on the flip side, be conscious not to burst other people's bubbles too. Because you, instead of reflecting on your own space, sometimes we'll turn it outside and be like, whoa, they just have their head in the clouds and I need to bring them back down to earth. And grounding dreams is not bursting a bubble. Grounding dreams is planting a seed, which is different, because planting a seed and nurturing and allowing it to grow is practical. We're taking an action, we're doing something about it. Whereas the negative self-talk, or this is all too ridiculous, why did I even think I could do that, is bursting a bubble.
And it stops us from taking action. So compassion for this moon might also look like amping up your self-encouragement.
Yes, beautiful. Definitely. And that may be the action that you need to take. It may literally be being your own personal cheerleader. It may not be I'm scheduling an appointment or I'm doing a something other than I'm going to be my own personal cheerleader. So just remember that, like I said, not everything you dream about is ready to be brought into form right now, but you can be compassionate with yourself that that's okay. Everything has its time, and something will be ready to be brought into form, and you can take action on that.
Yeah, they're bringing me to my gardening analogy because as I've had my own, first time vegetable garden this year, I've really noticed, you plant all these seeds at the exact same time, but they bear fruit at different times throughout the season. And where my peppers took a very long time to bear any fruit, I have the most like beautiful grocery store size peppers that are now coming into fruition. And it was probably like the latest to bloom of all of my veggies. And there were points in time where I was like, oh, I feel like these peppers are not doing well. I don't know that they're actually going to grow. I don't know that fruit is actually going to come from these peppers. And then sure enough, it blooms, it blossoms. And I think, right, that's exactly what you're speaking to. Like the tomatoes came first and have been abundant all summer long and they haven't stopped. And then we had, later on cantaloupe coming that was juicy and delicious. And then after that, the peppers came and all the while the cucumbers were coming. But it's like all of this different stuff is coming at all different times, even though the seeds were all planted at the same time. But what are we doing every single day? We're watering them, we're nurturing them, we're giving them love, we're giving it attention, we're giving it energy so that they can come into bloom in their right time.
Beautiful. And what you didn't do was say, oh, forget it. I'm just going to rip it out. Right. And that's what the negative self-talk does to our dreams. Right. Because you never would have gotten those beautiful peppers if you said, this is taking too long. I did something wrong. I'm just ripping it out. And it just shows the importance. I really feel like your whole story shows the importance of compassion. Right.
Well, and I did have that negative self-talk early on in the journey because every time, I had some sort of nutrient deficiency in some of my cantaloupe. And so they smelled like a cantaloupe, they looked like a cantaloupe, and then I cut it open and it was like lime green. I'm like, that is not a cantaloupe. But, there was some nutrient deficiency. So initially it's like, I used to say to myself, fail, another fail, another. And it's like, it's not like this is the first time I've ever done this. We're learning, we're growing. Like there is so much to understand. And whether we are building a business or we are learning about our unhealthy patterns or we are, right, like there is just so much to learn and bring and unlock conscious awareness about that we have to give ourselves that grace that like mistakes are actually built into this process of learning. And so we are not, Spirit is not expecting us to get it right all the time. They are expecting us to make mistakes because that is how we learn and grow. And so bringing that piece of compassion in to say, yeah, give yourself some grace in this moment because this is the human experience. If it was all smooth sailing, they're pointing me to a Chinese proverb that says, smooth sailing doesn't make for skillful sailors. And I think that's kind of the idea where if it was smooth all the time, yeah, it would be easy, but it would be kind of boring. And we probably wouldn't appreciate where we are and how we have evolved because it came so easily. Like I know the things I appreciate the most are the things that I've really had to work for in some way, right? Or I've really brought attention to an intention that I've had in order to see it come into fruition.
Beautiful. And it made me think too of the lunar cycle. We get to a full moon to pivot. We don't get to a full moon to say, "Ooh, look what I did," and we're done. It's, "Oh, adjust and let me shine it this way, or let me add nutrients, or let me take another course, or let me just give it more time. Maybe it just needs more time." But so that's that analogy with the garden is always so great with the lunar cycle, because it's the same, right? And we're constantly on a monthly cycle going through this growth pattern. And then what really came in for me when you were talking too about the idea that this is a lunar eclipse with endings is, what are these endings allowing you to now create? How does this ending allow you to bring your dream into form? And so I love wearing mantra tattoos. It's like my favorite, right? I love it. And I don't do anything permanent because they change all the time. And so I need a new mantra. I can't just I would be covered head to toe. So it's making me think about one of the mantra tattoos that I was wearing about a month ago that was, how is this moment perfect? And eclipses do bring, whether we're talking lunar or solar, eclipses bring unexpected events, change, endings, beginnings. And so, not to say it in a fear-based way, but there's shifts. This is the shift time. And it's not necessarily going to happen on the day, but it's within this portal of time that, you may have a move that you didn't realize you were going to do. You may have a job change that a few months ago wasn't even on your radar, right? It's just shift. It's okay. And how is this moment perfect? Right? How does this unexpected shift allow you to now bring your dreams into form? Yep. So, just as a reminder, your dreams matter.
Yeah.
You want to bring them into form, you're going to have to protect and defend them. And these changes, these shifts, are going to serve up on a platter the opportunity to protect and defend your dreams.
Okay. Summed it up really nicely. So thank you for that. Anything else for this particular full moon?
No, I just think, be easy on yourself.
Yeah. Compassion. Be gentle, grace. Give yourself the grace and space to move forward. Yeah.
Don't be so compassionate. I want to say that in quotes, that you don't act when you need to act.
Right.
Right.
Right. Sometimes compassion looks like telling your ego to get out of the way. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
There may be some things you need to take action on, but tell yourself it's okay. Be your own cheerleader.
Yeah.
Well,
Encourage yourself through it. You
mhm.
got this. Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. For those of you who want to explore more about the services that Catherine Ann offers, you can find more about Catherine Ann, her website, her Instagram and Facebook handles, as well as YouTube, in the show notes. And we will look forward to speaking with her for the new moon next month. Bye for now.